Hi, I'm Mark Cleghorn and welcome to the Photographer Academy. I should say I'm a very, very tired Mark Cleghorn for the Photographer Academy. I've just been shooting for 6 hours solid here at the Queensbury Hotel in Bath, just shooting food. And now I'm sure you kind of think, well, how is it so hard to shoot food? But it really is. It's not the technique, it's the timing, getting everything in. And basically, I wasn't just doing one shot per plate. I was kind of mocking up 3 shots. So as you'll see during the shoot, we're shooting a flash shot, as it were, then an overhead shot, and then we're using a daylight shot as well to give them 3 totally different kind of looks to the same dish. My eldest son, Chris, he's the head chef here, and he's been here for about 6 months now. So all the dishes are his now. He's run his brigade, just scored 9 out of 10 at the Times with their review. So they're really, really beginning to fly as a restaurant now. So I'm quite honoured because this is Chris's first time that he's had his food shot. He's worked for some of the great chefs, including Michael Caines, Heston Blumenthal, Adam Simmons, James Summerin, and go on and on kind of thing with it. So again, he's been a chef since he was 16 years of age. And this is his first big time, even though he's been executive chef through other chefs and so on. Back to the job. Lot to do. We've shot 24 dishes today. Should have been 25, but we've got a problem with one of them, so we haven't been able to do that. Not my problem. Their problem in kitchen. Plus, we pretty much run out of time. They've got dinner service in just over 2 hours. So we're just coming to the end. We've just got to pack down. Just want to give you a quick overview to kind of explain the simplicity of food photography. I don't think it's a big deal. To do it exceptionally well, yes, you need practice with it, and you need to play around with the lighting to get to your style and so on. But the kind of food that I've been shooting for the past 10, 15 years has been pretty much based on kind of focus out of faux focus or bright backgrounds or dark backgrounds, and kind of it really isn't a hard technique to get used to, but obviously it helps if you've done a lot of photography, which I have with food. So basic technique. The first thing is equipment. I use the 100mm macro. I'm shooting around between f4 and 5.6. Remember that a prime lens acts totally different to a zoom lens. So in other words, if I had a medium zoom and I was shooting at the 100mm end at f4, I would get a totally different look, a totally different depth of field at f4 on that zoom as I would with a macro or a prime lens. So do practice before you get out there and shoot. There are some dishes that I've had to actually get a slightly bigger depth of field, and I'll explain that kind of view to in a minute now. But other little things really, we're tethered to the laptop, so we can see the images coming straight up, so chef can see it as well. It also gives us a much better idea of true exposure. We're metering, of course, but once the setup is done, because we're basically killing all the other ambient light in the scene until I want to use that, it's all flash power, so it's not any trouble at all. So we're shooting 125th of a second to knock out the ambient light coming through this window here. We're in a basement, so it's no big problem, but there is some overhead lighting going off that lights the whole restaurant together, so I couldn't switch that off, as it were, but it's nice to work in some lighting. So what is my light? I've got a high light, a 7x5. There's a smaller version of this, which I usually bring, in fact, rather than this one. It has been packed by mistake, but in fact it's been easy to use because it's standing on the floor, and obviously I haven't had to raise it up on chairs like I usually do. And that is giving me my kind of window effect. So if I was photographing against the window here, pretty much the food, as you'll see during the shoot, is kind of in this position, and the camera position is there. So I want some of the backlight coming through. That gives the wash and the sheen to the food. So in other words, it would make this horrible wooden table here just like a white sheet or kind of a very high sheen, but it also puts that lovely glisten to the food as well. And then all I'm doing, in fact, is returning some of the light with simple reflectors. In this case, we're just using foil reflectors today on bits of card, just actually in the way. I usually do travel with a big bag of cards, black card, silver card, gold card, white card, and so on, as well as clips and blue tack and so on and so on, just so I can kind of fix them in place. But guess what I forgot to bring today? So I just whipped down to the local graphic shop and just picked up some simple bit of card to actually help me out during the course of it. So the highlight is acting like my window light. My camera, if we imagine that this is a clock for a minute, The usual position for the camera is at 6 o'clock. Because this is coming in from behind, we'll imagine that the dish is the middle of the clock and the highlight is at 12 o'clock. So my camera is in fact positioned at the 5 o'clock position in this point. And then I've got a kicker light, an accent light coming in at around about the 1 o'clock position. And that job is to just add a little bit more detail and texture to the light coming through. So without a sharper light source, basically the light is going to just be a bit bland. And I need a little bit of a crisper light source to return as well onto the reflectors. So it's a simple technique. To meter, obviously I'm metering from here back towards the reflected lights. That's what I want to make sure I'm exposing for. But the great thing about being tethered to the laptop, often it can look a little bit dark on the back of the camera. And if you're at all in any doubt, you can look onto the laptop, and that's obviously calibrated as sorts. So I'm using the Elinchrom 1 lights today. Now, they were originally designed for more of a entry-level studio flash. But because I like to shoot with flash at around about 2.8 f4, even 5.6, and sharp light, so in other words, non-diffuse light, so honeycombs or snoots and so on, what I've got the problem with was the higher levels of flash, the 200, the 400, the 500 PXRIs and so on. They're kicking out too much flash for me to be able to work in those wide open apertures. Sorry about all the noise in the background, but as you can tell, chefs are getting ready for service now. So that is why I'm using the Elinchrom 1s, because they are a low wattage power. In fact, one of the great benefits as well, if I wanted to mix in some speed light, if I was kind of having to do some restaurant shots as well, I could use a speed light on camera not only to fire these flashes, but I could also use it to kind of act as a bit of fill light within the room and so on. To fire the flashes today, I'm using the Elinchrom Skyport. Pretty much you should be familiar by now. That's a trigger that fits on the hot shoe of the camera, and then basically in turn it tells those lights to fire. The light in the highlight is set to group 1. The honeycomb light is set to group 2. That allows me, if at any stage, I haven't had to do it today, but if I need to increase one or the other or decrease one of the other, I've got that option to do it without having to visit the lights all the time. Tripod is pretty much essential for me to start off with, especially as we're looking for a theme of the images for them. Specifically, these are for print, for magazine, advertising and web, all in one, so quite a lot that. And I've got to have that variety for them to at least have that, again, that total variety of images of the same dishes, so it's not looking like the same shot being reused and reused in all the magazines. Why a tripod? Well, specifically if I'm dragging shutters, in other words, very, very long shutter speeds, when I'm shooting with the window light here alone, I'm needing the tripod for that. Otherwise, pretty much, it's just to start the first shot off of each setup before I then take it off the tripod to shoot with the flash. I'm shooting at 125th at 5.6 or f4, as I was saying. And the only other thing to say really is I'm using a little trigger. So let me just squeeze across there for a minute. This is the little trigger that's attached to the camera, and this allows me to remote trigger instead of having to touch the camera, especially when I'm dragging shutters, because obviously I don't want to put any tremor within the camera itself with it. And that's it. I was working today at 200 ISO. For no other reason than I could have shot here at 100 ISO. The flashes would have gone down in power then without any trouble. No, pretty cool. One thing to remember, if your camera is on and it's connected into the tethering, it's draining the camera battery the whole time. So if you're planning to be tethered, always remember to take at least 1 or 2 spare batteries, because you don't want to be switching the camera on and off between shots. There's no real reason for that at all with it. But it is being a continual drain going through. I'm not sure if that's a bug, whether it's going to be fixed in time or whatever, but it does draw that power going through from the camera. Anything else, Jay? Because I'm a mess, honestly. I'm sure they're going to do a great job on the editing. There's lots and lots to see. You're not going to see all 25 shots because they are going to be very, very similar, of course. And I will be explaining some of the shots as we're going through it. I've got to pack all this down now and get off, and I've got a full day shooting again tomorrow for another client. So I'm Mark Clowon for the Photographer Academy even. Don't feel sorry for me because I've just had a few of the desserts. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Ones we prefer more sexy basically looking for food, more boutique-y style.
Exactly.
Different, but for modern.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
and that is where we're at still.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, but just, is Lawrence in today?
No, he's on holiday now.
Okay.
So I said I'd send him the pictures at some point, but
Okay.
I'll see what Lawrence...
We can send him one now anyway. We can shoot the first dish and just check that that's the kind of thing that he wants. But can you see what I'm on about?
Yeah.
Because I can even go in more. And start to kind of get rid of more of the... Remember, we haven't put fills in yet and things, you know what I mean? Like reflectors or whatever else, okay? So, but I can pull back, but what I want to make sure is that we're keeping to a style, otherwise it looks like a mishmash of images. If I want to go above, we can either go for a similar design where we're going for the cropped in.
I think it's more about the food.
Shall I do that for you as we're going as well, though?
A lot more of the advertising Lawrence wants to go towards now is so they used to always do like almost, they never really show full dishes, and what he wants now when he's doing the adverts in the magazines is showing the dishes, showing off the dish because it looks amazing, and he said like that's what the guest sees and the guest expects. And that's what we've had a big thing since the Times review is so many people coming in from it. It's unbelievable. Great.
We're shooting a range of the food together instead of looking at how to best present that one plate of food. If we were looking to do a book and we were looking at how to present that plate of food, we'd be styling the background separately for every single dish. Do you know what I mean? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I think it looks good anyway. All we need to do, as I said, is just make sure that we're getting the type of images. And this is sharp in one place.
Yeah.
Bang. Yeah. And then obviously it's dropping its focus as it goes out of shot and things really.
Yeah.
So that was our quick chat with Chef. Obviously it's important to know what they want. Just because Chef is my son doesn't mean anything. He's still the client today. This is the Queensbury Hotel in Bath. It's Chris's restaurant here. He's just scored 9 out of 10 with the Times of their review, and he's tipped for a Michelin star within the next couple of years. Besides the point, we're here to shoot food today, and I've still gone through the discussion with him like I would do with any client. What do you want? It's not what I'm doing. If we were working in collaboration, perhaps with a book that we're doing together, or we're doing a project together, that's a different thing altogether. However, for this is for their advertising, their website and so on, so we've got a bit of a kind of set what variety is going to be, and kind of all I'm doing here is this still in trend, drop focus, been shooting this for about 10 years kind of style, but sharp on a point. We've got a 100mm macro on, which allows me to get in tight if I need to. I'm running at f4.5 to 5.6, depends on what I want to show. Obviously, because I'm using flash today, I've got to make that decision as far as the aperture is concerned, because I can't just open and drag the shutter speed like I would if I was doing daylight. I could be shooting daylight in here. We've got a nice little window off towards the side. Sorry about the noise, but they're working away in the background. There's a nice little window light coming through here, so I could do that without any trouble. However, that daylight is going to change during the course of the day. It's not only going to change its amount of light, it's also going to change its quality of light. So it's going to get softer or crisper, depends on where that light is. And we are in the basement. So again, this is going to be a little bit more diffused lighting, which is great for photography. The difference being is really in the reflection coming through. If I was to shoot from here with daylight and doing a similar shot, what I would get is all the lovely colours of the lamp and everything else. And it's no big deal for me to be able to move from a flash image and then moving into a daylight image. It's going to be very, very similar setup, whereas I've got the light coming in, as you can see here, from behind, and then I've got my kicker coming in at the kind of the 2 o'clock position. And then I'm just going to use card in the front to lift some of the detail there, that's key. So if this was my light coming through here, works in exactly the same way, meter once more. And what I don't have then is a kicker light, of course, coming through it, because I haven't got a secondary flash, and that's the kicker light is the sharpness to the light. That's really what I'm trying to do. But I can still use the reflectors, little bits of card just from the local card shop, to kind of kick in some of the light and so on. So this is where it's just going to be close to it to lift detail. So, The question I've got here a minute, if you look at this shot, can you see this black line running through? And obviously that is coming through from the wall in the background. This is reflecting off here. So I'm just going to move across the table fully, just to take that out of the shot. Then all I need to do is move this light to the side there. Because you've got a brown table there, it's not the most attractive thing on the planet,
No,
especially with food. So I've put the kind of the gloss, this light just coming through it, just going through there. And then if we want to, above shot as well if we want. So you've got a couple of little
It'd be
add-ons.
good to have a few, because we'll be using these shots for everything from website to reviews to God knows what.
So do kind of 3 shots then. The kind of the closer up in the angle of the plate. Do the shot to show a little bit more of the table in case you need to crop down, run a bit of text or whatever, and then do the overhead shot as well with it. Yeah? Okay with that?
That's good. You good to go?
I'm good to go, yeah. So,
Okay.
how long between dishes do you think?
Well, I'll send you the appetizer up now. That'll take me 2 minutes to do that, and then we'll start working straight away the first course, and then we'll just keep going.
Bagging them through.
Yeah, because you only need the first bit, don't you?
Yeah, just to make sure we do the quick test, the test shot. You make sure the dish is perfect for you, and then I'll do my thing. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Sorry, Chris, we were gossiping.
That's for you. Might as well, we're going to just walk past them with it there. The biggest thing I would say for me is actually more the honey and oats, because it's quite a dark because of the egg wash anyway, and it's a granary bread. It's making sure that that doesn't look too dark.
Right, that one's done.
Breakfast was a bit chaotic this morning.
You had lots in, did you?
We're always full.